It's part 2 of Niv-Mizzet Supreme, and this time he's joined by his friends who have no tans and sleep all day, and they're checking into the House of WUBRG right now. Greetings, I'm Lee. Welcome to the House of WUBRG, where we create 5-colour commander brews. We hope you enjoy your stay. On Monday, we overcame our decision paralysis and built Niv-Mizzet Supreme Modal Tribal. If you didn't see that, go and give that a watch after this video, which had more branching pathways than the Dragon's Maze under Ravnica. Today, as promised, 2 deck lists that explore Niv's ability to discard as part of the additional cost to jumpstart instants and sorceries from our graveyard. The ideas that I will present to you today were born from me trying to make a 5-colour Madness deck work. And unfortunately that died a tragic death due to a lack of impactful payoffs and some strange bite marks on its neck. But then it was reborn as twin deck lists. One with rummage, looting and conniving at its heart, and the other with fangs, graveyards and lots of Eastern European accents. I will talk about both versions side by side. Just look out for the vampire bats, which denote it is a vampire specific part of the deck tech. But both deck lists are doing the same thing, except they take slightly different mist-swirled paths to achieve the same objective. Discard, 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 and then use some kind of discard payoffs to reach card advantage or at least card parity, and then use 2-colour reanimation spells to bring back big, burly win cons. The reanimation spells are the same in both decks and are 2-colour pairs, meaning we get to revive our resurrection spells with Jumpstart. Graceful Resurrection gets our utility creatures or big burly win con back and is modal, so you can switch things up during the match. Hymn of Rebirth lets us body snatch from any graveyard, and Can't Stay Away has flashback, which hails from the same house as Jumpstart. And these 2 spells stop our opponents from planning ahead with the instant speed resurrection of our creatures, with Cauldron Dance putting a creature back into our hands so we have another card to discard later, and sneak attacking a card that is sacked at end of turn, ready to emerge from its coffin later. Torrent of Souls even pumps all the smaller utility creatures by 2 power, and if the return creature just happens to pump them further, then my word, we just shifted up to a very aggressive turn out of nowhere. That's how we're getting our cards from the yard, but how are we going to fill those plots with prospective tenants? Apart from Niv-Mizzet's jumpstart costs, the Vampire Tribal deck list is using blood tokens to discard and draw. Stratham provides with a second avenue to cheat in creatures and a plentiful supply of blood as opponents lose life, and Angie breaking out the party pack of hemoglobin when other vampires emerge from the shadows. Cards like Sky Shroud Vampire, Hair of Falcon Wrath and Fury Blade Vampire give us free discard outlets, and other Fanged Fiends trade a discard for countless advantages like creature buffs and card draw. Back in the land of the living, our discard enablers are a motley crew of different creature types. Trespasser Ilvec discards a card to become an evasive threat, which synergizes with the reanimation targets you'll be meeting later in the video. Merfolk Looter gives us a card before we decide what to pitch, and Azra Oddsmaker gives us a May ability that could replace a discard with 2 cards, which works well with an evasive attacker like Trespasser. Trainer acts as a redundancy for our reanimation plan and keeps opponents on their toes by giving reanimated creatures haste. And if you watched my Omnath video, you'll know how powerful haste can be in Commander. And I Spine Interloper from the Vampire deck. It's Angie Falconwrath, just couldn't resist that rummaging effect. You could take this deck in a Spell Shaper direction, which is a group of creatures that pitch spells for various effects like Undertaker and Waterfront Bouncer, and we invite their recursion and bounce effects into this deck list. Anvil gives us a free discard, keeps our hand stocked, and forces opponents to pitch their cards too. And Lethal Scheme takes advantage of the high number of low-cost discard enablers with a removal spell that could discard cards as part of the Connive Convoke pairing and trigger our discard payoffs multiple times. Niv and his supporting cast have got us covered with cards to the yard, but let's meet the supporting players whose motto is Waste Not, Want Not. Both decks feature the Madness cards that inspired this whole deck building journey. Madness is an ability that lets you cast a card for an alternative cost as long as it's being discarded. The moment you discard a card with Madness, its ability triggers, then the card is put into exile, where you must choose to either send it to the graveyard or pay its Madness cost and cast it. Many of the Madness creatures have good power stats, and the effect can get a lot of bodies onto the field, which we need for our reanimation targets to work. Big Game Hunter is very much alive and neck rupture free, but that 1 black to destroy a powerful creature could not be passed up. Occultist gives us exile based card advantage, and Markov Baron, fresh from Mom Aftermath, is a Vamp Lord as well as a Madness Adopter for the Toothy Tribe deck. Our vamp deck has also made zombies, minotaurs, and one very surly badger dinosaur into their familiars to take advantage of us filling those graveyard plots, providing us with tokens, mana, fight effects, card draw through Bone Miser, Surly Badgersaur, and Currency Converter, and some life swing with Feast of Sanity. Back in the land of the living, the Badgersaur is working both deck lists and is joined by Wharf Infiltrator, making us Eldrazi Horrors, and Oscar Rubbish Reclaimer, letting us recycle discarded non-land cards there and then. Our neck botherers walk a distinctly darker path with the help from some pointy-toothed guides. And Hello uses our power 2+ creatures to copy our removal and recursion spells. Captivating Vampire and Stromkirk Captain boost our undead crew with the Captivating Fellow, taking advantage of Madness mana cost reductions, getting more bodies to tap for the game control effect. Other undead conspirators take advantage of the sheer volume of vampires. Champion of Dusk draws us cards per Eternal Child. We have more lords like Legion Lieutenant, and then we have the bride herself, Olivia Crimson Bride, to help aid our reanimation plan. So we have all our supporting players set up, activating vampire puns. With so much at stake, who can we count on to put the final nail in our opponent's coffins? The more I look at the Uber Vamps for the Vampire Tribal deck list, the more I thought I'd outjanked myself, but when the day turns to dusk, reanimation strategies want big, evasive beaters on the field, and all three of the Uber Vamps pictured have flying. One has haste, another has trample, and all three have the capacity to get bigger. So though fragile, Niv allows us to recast our reanimation spells so they go from once returned to twice returned, and so on. And yes, I may be offending the purebloods out there with Morathon, but I can't resist a 7/7 vampire that makes everything else cheaper. Plus, Methodros is in the list, which turns our non-vampire utility creatures into vampires. They take advantage of the vampire boosts in the deck. Plus, Timothar is 20% inclusion for his wild protection ability and 80% because he's called Timothar. The non-vamp focus list takes advantage of the low-cost discard enablers and synergizes with aggressive doubler themes. Blast Furnace gives us double strike for our creatures and actually cheers on our opponent's creatures with the same. Kamal has that wild overrun effect and makes use of the lands we haven't discarded to pay discard costs, while Gisela reduces damage for us and turns it up to 11 for our opponents. Removal is the same for both deck lists, all 2 colour, so Niv can get the Vindication, Agony and Assassination happening again. Terminal Agony even has Madness and ties up all the deck's themes into one agonising package, discard and double dipping. My wild card makes my janky little heart sing and is approved by our Dragon Commander himself. So we start with a dragon in the zone, we flood the field with non-dragon creatures, maybe dragon shift one thing to boost toughness or get in 4 damage, and then we leave it inconspicuously in the graveyard. Later, Niv is circling overhead, we cast it for its overload cost, and then it's a case of, where did all these flipping dragons come from? So those are our lists, and the mana base even has cycling cards in for even more discard options. But the question is this now. You've seen these 2 deck lists, and hopefully you've watched my video on Monday all about Niv-Mizzet Supreme Modal Tribal. If you haven't, go and watch it. Which of those 3 deck lists do you think I should make in paper for the first ever House of WUBRG Commander Smackdown Punch Up in the Car Park Royal Rumble? This is a working title. Which of them can stand up against my previous 5 colour deck lists? We've had Tom Bombadil Sagas, we have had Omnath, Locus of All, Let's Go Bowling, and we have had Atogatogs, Eat All Your Permanents. Which of the deck lists I've shown you today, or the one on Monday with Niv-Mizzet Supreme, can stand up to the rest of them? Vote in the comments below, and I will choose the one with the most votes to build in paper. And then subscribe, because you won't want to miss that Smackdown for the House of WUBRG crown, possibly a sash that says Miss WUBRG 2023. That sounds nice. If you enjoyed today's video and you liked what you saw, I would appreciate a subscribe and a like. I've enjoyed doing this. I am putting a lot of effort into it, and I want to continue doing it, and those things motivate me. So please do those things. And in the next couple of weeks, you are going to have a video all about how to build a 5 colour mana base, because I think that that is the bit that stops people from exploring WUBRG builds, because it's quite pricey. But I'm also going to show you that there are budget options as well. And thanks for watching MTG Specs, and I will see you soon. Till next time, goodbye.